Welcome into another edition of the James Boyd Podcast. I, of course, am James Boyd, joined by my editor, Jim Aiello, after a Colts season opening win for the first time since 2013. Jim,
Just
history
like we
was
both
made.
predicted. Just like we both predicted.
Yes, yes. Whatever I said before, I was hacked. It was not me. It was AI. You know, AI is crazy these days, Jim. You have the
Yeah.
Grok on, or how you say it, Gronk or Grok on
I think it's
Twitter, on
Grok.
X.
Yeah.
And so that was what that was. That was not the real James Boyd. I predicted that the Colts would go out there and dominate with Daniel
Yep.
Jones. He would
Same.
look like, John Elway, and they would cruise to an easy victory over the Dolphins. But no, I think we're both eating a bit of crow today after a stunning victory. And I don't say that in a way of them winning, but just in a fashion in which they did it. That was stunning, Jim, and a hell of a way to honor Jim Irsay with him going into the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Just the emotions of the day, the performance overall. There was very little to be upset about considering how well things looked right out of the gate for the Colts.
So it's funny that you say that you mentioned eating crow. I said I wrote this down for myself. I said last night I wrote it because I knew we were going to do this podcast. I know people listen and know that I was down on Daniel Jones and the Colts this year. I just want to say I don't eat crow after one game, but I see it there on the menu. I'm prepared to order it if I have to.
What a line! That was good. That
I
was
see
good.
it. I see it's there, and I'm not going to order anything else. I'll just wait.
I was gonna say, Jim, between this podcast, the radio show, the Fan Morning Show, my game story, X and Twitter, these people are forcing crow down my throat right now. I don't have a choice
Okay.
to order it. Like it's being served up here in Indianapolis. You're a little safer, being back in Illinois, but
a few hours out of away.
exactly. But again, on a more serious note, we have to start with the quarterback. I think Daniel
sure.
Jones, and he was phenomenal yesterday.
Yep.
And I don't say that word lightly. I don't say that as like some homer. You all know I'm not that. I was thoroughly impressed. And honestly, Jim, that was probably one of the best games of his career. Not just a great debut or a pretty good game or pedestrian game. I mean, the guy was a few yards short of throwing for 300 yards. And he probably would have had the game been closer. I mean, he didn't really have a chance to, cut loose as much as he would have been forced to had they had some pressure on him. But just from start to finish, I thought Daniel Jones had a masterclass performance and got 2 rushing touchdowns in there as well. 3 touchdowns overall with the touchdown to Pittman through the air and looked in total control, Jim. And I want to know, all right, so when you're, kind of watching this game, and I know you have a lot of other things going on game day, but I thought that first drive,
Yeah.
they went down the field. He had the errant throw to Michael Pittman Jr., like way over his head, one of his first throws of the game. And I was like, what the heck was that? That was like Anthony Richardson. And then when he got loose kind of in the run game, he tried to spin back and got crushed by Matthew Judon.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is, again, is that Anthony out there? What are you doing? But after that, it was nearly flawless. So what was your reaction to him kind of starting a bit shaky, settling for 3 points, and then realizing by the end of the game, oh, wow, this guy just had one of the best games you will see from a Colts quarterback and also from an offense, considering they didn't punt technically.
Hater that I am. I remember something you had told me about. I think you had mentioned this. Gosh, I can't remember when we last talked about that, but you had mentioned that. Like, what if Daniel Jones comes out and rips it like that first drive? Because Shane Steichen offenses tend to look really, really good on that first drive. Like, he's got a good game plan, good script, and he usually does. That's true. So when I saw it happen, driving down the field, Pepper and Tyler Warren, I thought, okay, like that's nice. They got 3 points. Like that's kind of what I expected.
Right, but even then, it was a little bumpy. The Tyler Warren part was great,
Yeah.
but I'm like, it wasn't like it was me thinking, he's in store for a great day. I was like, okay,
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. It definitely needed to get some jitters out. I think a little bit, maybe get hit like that. Daniel Jones has never been afraid of contact. It's one of the things Giants teammates loved about him is that he. I mean, again, obviously it led to some injuries, but he was never afraid to like put his head down and fight for extra yards. So
Right.
I think Colts teammates probably love that. But no, you're right. It was a little shaky to start, but again, I was hater that I am. I was like, it's kind of Daniel Jones experience, and then yeah, man, it didn't look that way the rest of the game. I honestly, like I said, I was surprised at how efficient he was throughout the day. Distributing the ball to Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, or Daniel Jones, to Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman. I felt like God. Honestly, I was looking at the box score. I felt like he hit like 12 different receivers. It turns out it was only like eight, but or seven, I should say. But it was, yeah, like you said, it was the best I've seen Daniel Jones look in quite some time. He had a good stretch early last year with the Giants, where it was week 3, week 4, where he had a good 2 or 3 game run. But this was the most confident and poised I've seen Daniel Jones look, and I think to a point you had made while we were talking on the phone before we started this podcast was, man, that Colt supporting cast is solid. If you get somebody to get them the ball in space on time, they can be really good, which is something that Shane Steichen has been saying for months, right? It's like, let's get somebody in here who plays consistently within the rhythm of the offense, gets us into the right place, can identify a blitz and say like, oh, we need to get out of this play or slide protection one way or the other. Like he did all of those things. I think Steichen, and you can tell people, but Steichen pointed one of those things out in the post game presser about getting the Colts into the right play. But yeah, I was in terms of the execution of the offense. What were your takeaways in terms of just the way he ran Shane Steichen's offense, and essentially from what we were told, the way he was going to run it going into the year?
Yeah, I was fully prepared for Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones to walk in side by side in the post game presser and just double bird me and say, "Take that, James," for all your harsh criticisms of what we could be and what we haven't
Yeah,
done. But that was very convincing. Not only for me, but I think the energy around the city after that game, after that performance, obviously you're going to feel good when you dominate like that. But it's the reaction I've gotten from so many fans is, even reading through the comments on The Athletic, is I see the vision now. And I see what they might have saw in him. And in fairness to us, Jim, Daniel Jones never looked that good any day of camp,
right.
any day of the preseason. Like there's certain quarterbacks I'm sure you've seen throughout your career. They have like lights out days at training camp, especially because the defense can't hit you. There's not real pressure. He never looked like that. And when you say maybe it takes a hit or a real pass rush or whatever, maybe that is the case to kind of get him going a bit, because I thought he was very dialed in yesterday. And also just creativity from Shane. So the marrying
Yeah,
of the efficient quarterback, the guy who, unlike Anthony Richardson has in the past, the guy who's more capable of making the layup throws, the simple throws, the on time throws, and also, making the calls, making the checks, changing protections, all those things, married with Shane's creativity on offense. You kind of saw the beauty in that yesterday with how they performed, because there were so many different wrinkles and nuances and even the aggressiveness from Shane that we've come to, enjoy or expect in certain 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 situations. You're not feeling that good. You're not calling all those plays. You're not dialing those things up if you don't trust your quarterback. So what I saw was a quarterback who, again, settled down after the early kind of, jitters and trusted himself. And then a coach who, because of that trust, continued to stack more on top of him. So to me, again, masterclass from Daniel Jones. And the more enticing part, talking to a lot of the skill position players yesterday, was that you never know, based off yesterday's performance, when it's going to be your day. Like I was talking to AD Mitchell on the way out of the locker room, and shout out to AD. He's good energy most of the time. And I actually ran up to him. I ran up, but I walked up to him. Jim just kind of set the scene a little bit. It
yeah,
was him and Ashton Doolin, their locker buddies at Lucas Oil Stadium, so right next to each other. And I was like, hey, I'm just want to talk to a couple different receivers about Daniel Jones. What do you think about his performance today? I said, either one of you. I said, if you got a second. I said, it's literally just 2 questions. Just chime in. And Ashton Doolin looks at me and he goes, AD got you, man. And I was like, you're the real AD. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, come on, man. You going to do me like that? And so they got to arguing about their nickname and who's the real AD. So after we got through the whole, the OG AD is Ashton Doolin, the young AD is Adonai Mitchell, then AD was, kind of opened up a bit about Daniel Jones. I put it in my story, actually, and actually updated this line in there this morning. The last quote in the story, when AD Mitchell says, everything feels different, we might have something special. He says that as he's looking over at Daniel Jones, who's like, pulling on his clothes and doing whatever in his locker. And as I, break from my little huddle with them and go to find somebody else, on his way out, AD Mitchell is kind of like, hyping up Daniel Jones and giving him some love for a guy who doesn't really want the spotlight, it seems like, or doesn't really want to take credit for it. But you can tell the guys especially at the performance like that, they have no choice but to rally around him. And so that was kind of what I gained from that game yesterday, Jim, is that, again, confidence in your quarterback, confidence in the coach, confidence in the unity that you can have together when those twos are clicking. And I mean, you've seen a lot of Colts games throughout the years. When's the last time you saw them dominate a team like that,
No.
especially with their quarterback, not their running back? JT's still great, leading the way.
No, I mean that's a great point. I don't remember. I'm sure there are Colts games that have been blocked out of my mind because of all the frustrations that we've had watching this
I
team over
guess
the
in
past few
fairness,
years.
the one that I can bring up actually was last year, probably AR with the Jets. That was a great quarterback game. I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But again, the precision, the passing, all those things, and the way he did it, with Anthony, it's like, kind of the explosives, what can you get in that regard? But that yesterday, I mean, that was just methodical, surgical, and really just kind of breaking you down.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring up two stats on Daniel Jones that impressed me more than maybe anything else. One, he took one sack yesterday. If you look back at his game logs with the Giants, he took multiple sacks in all but one of his starts last year. In 2023, he took multiple sacks in every one of the games that he played. That is, again, a testament to how bad the Giants' offensive line was, but the fact that Daniel Jones took a lot of sacks. This is something that quarterbacks tend to get better at with age. If you look at like one of the main knocks on Geno Smith, say before he ended up becoming a great, a really good quarterback in the NFL, was that he took way too many sacks. He didn't sense pressure. He got better at that as he got older and more playing time in the NFL. Maybe that's something we can look for with Daniel Jones is his pocket navigation. And again, all credit due to the Colts offensive line, which played pretty well yesterday
Oh, yes.
against some decent pass rushers that the Dolphins have. We'll get into how bad the Dolphins are in a minute, but the other side I wanted to point out was that you and I had both talked about Daniel Jones, based on his time with the Giants, is being not a check down merchant, but a guy who doesn't like to air the ball out very
Right.
much. 10.07 air yards per attempt yesterday. That is higher than any game that he's had since week 10 of 2022. Um, he was pushing the ball downfield in a way that Shane Steichen's offense loves to do, and that he had mentioned last year that Richardson didn't get as many times. I wanted him to throw short a little bit more often, some easier throws. And again, don't get me wrong, Daniel Jones had some easy throws, but he was air yards per attempt. He was at 10 yards per attempt yesterday. So something that I thought was two of those things I thought were different than what I expected to see out of Daniel Jones and are
Hmm.
very encouraging signs going forward. Now, to turn the page just a little bit on that, man, the Dolphins are a mess. Good God. I mean, they couldn't stay on the field. I mean, credit to the Colts defense. We'll get into that in a minute, but they couldn't stay on the field. Tua looked terrible. He made through some awful interceptions. The fumble was egregious, frankly. I mean, good on Kenny Moore for not getting it loose, but egregious. The pick was bad. I think Cam Bynum called it what he called it, an unconfident throw.
Yeah. Not confident throw.
Non-confident throw. Yeah, I mean that's what it was. Tyreek was there. He would have got popped if he caught it, but he sailed that throw. And then the Latu one. I mean, I don't know what he was looking at. It's like these are some of these. It was a terrible game for the Dolphins. So I think this is going to get into a bigger point on the Colts. Is we don't want to overreact too much to one win. It's week one, which
Oh, the
hey,
Colts are going to the Super Bowl. That was the first comment that I got on my post game story yesterday. So
I'm not
respect
trying to be
there.
the guy. Like I said, I told you I'm prepared to eat. I'm prepared to order the crow off the menu if I need to. But it's one week. I think the Dolphins were a team I had and many others had suspected were going to be could be very bad this year. Now, we talked last week, so I don't want to undo what I said. Like I said last week, I thought this was like Dolphins early on. I thought they'd be, they're pretty healthy. They usually have new wrinkles on the offense, so it's the wrong time to catch them. Turns out I was totally wrong. Perfect time to catch them. They look like they're a mess, and the Colts took advantage of it. I will be very eager to see. I don't think the Broncos look very good. Again, I don't know how many Colts fans got a chance to watch Denver. I only got caught parts of it, obviously, yesterday. They didn't look great, but they're still a really good team. They're a playoff team. They have a great defense. They have an interesting offense with Bo Nix running the show with John Payton calling the shots. So that will be a better test for where things are with the Colts. But yeah, I did want to get your kind of take on. You were there. At what point did you realize the Dolphins were kind of an unserious team?
I think it was very unserious when they finally forced a punt and then they got it called back because they ran into the punter. So I was like, that's stupid. And then there was a point in the game where it was first and 30 for the Colts because of a couple of holding penalties. And
Yeah,
then they got it all back, plus an automatic first down because of a defensive holding penalty. And it's like, it's you cannot let a team get a new set of downs when they're facing 30 yards to gain. Like that to me is just an unserious team. And
yeah.
you could see some of the frustration boiling over when you saw Tyreek Hill on the sideline kind of going off a little bit, and I understand his frustration. I don't want to label it like he's
Right.
misguided and being frustrated. Like, no, that's real emotion. A lot of teams will feel that way when they're getting stomped like that by another team that they're probably thinking is, like that win yesterday. If you're looking across the sideline, you're thinking that team could be in the way of me being in the playoffs or not. And so to get embarrassed like that, you didn't face the Bills, you didn't face the Ravens, who, side note, played one of the greatest regular season games I've ever seen. You didn't play like a juggernaut. You face a team that should be in that same sort of just trying to get in like you are,
Right.
and you look that bad. So, I think again, running into the kicker, because that's why I had to say technically they didn't punt. They did punt. You gave another chance. And then again, how do you commit that sort of penalty to a defensive holding when it's first and 30, second and whatever it was? Like, who, what could possibly happen for you to give up that amount of yardage on the play? Be disciplined. Don't let that happen. And so to have that sort of outing, knowing that the Dolphins, and I talked to, shout out to Coach Rick Venturi about this, Colts radio analyst who is a football lifer. Jim, this man talked to me about Illinois, my Fighting Illini, my mater, Illinois football. He talked to me about, what Duke was doing against Illinois. And then he talked about the Dolphins, and he's writing off all these names and players and schemes. But he mentioned that these teams are kind of mirror images of each other. They both have GMs who have not delivered.
Right.
They both have, teams that have been just good enough to kind of get your hopes up, but just bad enough every year to kind of let you down.
Yep.
They have questionable decisions to make at quarterback. Obviously, the Dolphins are more solidified because they paid Tua already, but I mean,
Yeah.
what has he won you? So those things are all very similar, and to go out there and get embarrassed like that was I imagine, very humbling for this team. But to kind of segue your point a bit, Jim, I do think it's tough to talk about the difficulties we saw with the Dolphins without giving some flowers to Lou Anarumo and,
Heck yeah, man.
and just how
Totally.
he made things difficult. So as you read my game story, as you see some of the plays, just some of the highlights, because there were plenty of them. I mean, you didn't have to watch the game to know there were 3 turnovers, and all 3 of them were so unique. I mean, what did you think of just how night and day this defense looked compared to what Gus Bradley offered last year against lesser passers, by the way, and then this year, where again you have Kenny coming off the edge, you got Nick Cross coming off the edge, you got Laiatu dropping back in coverage, and just the variety that was offered from a guy like Lou Anarumo, who, according to several guys in the locker room, was cooking up.
So that is exactly what I wanted to talk about was the 2 sacks, particularly. Nick Cross getting the sack and obliterating Tua on that play. Kenny Moore coming and Tua not really seeing it coming. This Dolphins offense has always been, under Mike McDaniel, predicated on Tua making the right decision very, very fast. Under 2.5 seconds. This is how this Dolphins offense functions. When you are sending safeties and corners off the edge, particularly on I would say on the Kenny Moore one, he didn't get there right away. There was the look confused Tua. He did not know what he was looking at, and that gave Kenny time to get home. Nick Cross got there pretty quick. He was just like an unblocked read. But the fact that Tua held the ball as long as he did, beyond 2.5 seconds, I had the stat in front of me and now I lost it, and I apologize, but he
I'll
held
get
the
it for
ball
you.
long. He held the ball longer than most quarterbacks in the NFL in week 1. That is the opposite of the way the Dolphins wanted to play. Like, there are some teams like, Lamar, Josh Allen, if they hold on to the ball for 3 seconds or more, that's fine. Like, they're going to make something happen. Tua is not going to make something happen. He's not really an out of structure player. They want everything to happen within structure, on time, right away, crisp. What Lou Anarumo was doing to Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa was confusing the hell out of him, clearly. They were holding onto the ball long. He didn't know what he was looking at. And even when he did, he was making bad throws. But that jumped out at me, was that how quickly the Dolphins looked discombobulated by what they were saying from Lou Anarumo. Now, the Colts probably had a little bit of an advantage in that new defensive coordinator, don't have a ton of tape on what they're going to do with the Colts. Obviously, they go back and watch some Bengals units, but that's not a unit loaded with talent.
Right.
Didn't play very well last year. It's a tough thing to prepare for if you're the Dolphins, in terms of a new defensive coordinator with a new scheme on a new team with as much talent as the Colts have. So I'll give the Dolphins, I guess, a little bit of leeway on that. But they looked, Lou Anarumo had them confused pretty much start to finish. I mean, if Devon Achane didn't have a really pretty angry run there at the end. I know it was on a catch, but like he ran over a couple players there for the Colts. They would have been shut out. I mean, it would have been a shutout for the Colts. That's how just like how confused they were the entire game.
Yes, and here's the stat you were looking for. Shout out to Joel A. Erickson of Indy Star. He pulled it this morning, and I was trying to find it myself. So Tua yesterday averaged 2.6 yards. I'm sorry, 2.6 seconds
Yeah.
from snap to throw. Compare that to the last 2 years in which he led the league in that category. The last 2 years. Last year, 2.42.
Yep.
The year before that, 2.36. And I know some
That's
people
how they
might be
want to play.
thinking, yeah, it's not, oh, it's 0.3 seconds. Yes,
It's a
that is
lot.
a lot of time, especially when you're talking about a sack fumble, when you're talking about timing on routes, when you're talking about the overthrow to Cam Bynum. If you're a half second early, perhaps that's a completion. And Cam Bynum did a good job of kind of establishing what we had seen from Lou, but also the validation of it, because he was saying that's what we want to do. We want to confuse you. We want to make you hesitate, because he was like, it doesn't take a lot. And it was funny because his celebration, which was nuts, I don't even know what you call that. A flopping fish, a dolphin out of water is kind of what I heard on
Sideways
Twitter.
worm is what I heard. What I
Yeah,
heard.
we were asking him. He said it's a worm on his back.
There you go.
He's got a whole video breakdown of it on Instagram, which I thought was awesome. Apparently, he practiced his exact celebration 10 years ago, practiced it the night before the game, gets the pick, and then does it. And I'm like, you are a walking definition of just believing in yourself. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
there is no way you could have foreseen this 10 years ago. But that's the kind of foresight he has. But getting back to the point, he said, I didn't do anything special. All I did was catch the ball. And he mentioned how Nick Cross really made the play. He was like, if Nick Cross isn't in position to where Lou is saying, kind of flash here and giving Tua something else to look at before he makes
Yep.
that throw, I'm not able to make that play. So he's like, if Nick Cross isn't there, that's an easy, pitch and catch. But since he was there, that forced hesitancy just a little bit allowed me to get one of the easier interceptions of my career. And of course, it would be Cam Bynum, right? The new addition, the fun guy, the guy who's always laughing and joking and dancing. He gets that first interception. And I thought from there, it was just downhill, Jim. Like, they never looked comfortable. And I just kept waiting for it to turn, because in the NFL, especially last season, I felt like there were so many one-score games. I mean, the Colts, keep in mind, here's some perspective for you. Every win they had last year was by one score. Yesterday, they won by 25. I mean, what are we talking about here? Like that's how dominant they were. So again, hats off to that unit, because it was I hadn't seen a Colts defense look like that in a long time. And honestly, I don't think I've seen a Colts defense look like that during my time covering the team, because my first 3 years
No.
obviously were with Gus Bradley, and this is my first year with Lou Anarumo. So fun stuff. And I thought Javarius Ward really put it, in the most Mooney Ward cornerback one way, new sheriffs in town. I got a kick out of that too, because that's one other thing to keep in mind, Jim. You've hit this a lot, and feel free to expand on this, but these dudes ain't used to losing.
No.
So all that week one, we haven't won in forever. Mooney Ward ain't trying to hear that. Cam Bynum's like, what? I just went to the playoffs last year with our backup quarterback. So what the heck are you talking about? So a lot of them, they weren't trying to, get on that same mojo or feel that, sort of weight. And they went out there and smoked them. So if you want to expand on just the experience that you saw from those guys,
Yeah.
that was pretty impressive stuff. And also, I guess I'll add on this question. What'd you think of, speaking of all the baggage and the scars and the carrying of the previous players not having the losing streak anymore, but the fashion in which they did it on the day that Jim Irsay goes in? Like, if there's anybody, we talked about this, anybody who will be so optimistic about the new additions, the old players stepping up, it will be him. And so can you just explain, maybe for those who don't know Jim Irsay, because both of us knew him, I guess, better than the public, just how that moment would have been for a guy like him?
Well, I remember. I mean, a couple of years ago, I think we can explain it pretty well. Is that when Anthony Richardson looked like maybe something his rookie season, that fight with Jonathan Taylor went away pretty quick. He was so optimistic,
Yes.
he decided to pay Jonathan Taylor.
Yes,
Here's all the
yes.
money. Like,
Yes.
that's how excited Jim Irsay gets. I mean, yeah, classic Jim Irsay. Anybody that's been around the Colts can tell you that, before the season, he's talking Super Bowls, he's talking playoffs, he's talking setting records and all the other stuff. Like, that's the kind of optimistic player or owner that he was. I think there was some poetry in that. The day that he was getting inducted into the Ring of Honor. They snap the streak in honor of him, and they give his daughters, their first win as the principal owners of the Colts. It was a pretty cool moment. It was very, I mean, it's awesome for the family. I saw how much it meant to them in the post game locker room. They all got the game balls, all the daughters. It was very cool. I do want to make sure mentioning what you did about Charvarius Ward, about Cam Bynum, to throw some credit at Chris Ballard. We talked about this
Absolutely.
yesterday
Yeah.
a lot, which was that all his new additions, all he was more aggressive this offseason than he's ever been, and boy, did it look like it paid off. I mean, starting with free agency, Cam Bynum, Charvarius Ward, Daniel Jones, all had big impacts on this game. And then you talk about Tyler Warren in the draft, big impact on this game. I'm sure I'm missing guys right now, but my point being is he was the guy that Jim Irsay told to fix it. You have to do it.
Yes.
You wrote this in your story. He told him to fix it. He aggressively went after doing that more. I think I said more aggressively than I think he's ever been in his
Yes.
tenure as the GM of the Colts. And for 1 week at least, they look like they fixed it, or at least they're on the right track. Lou Anarumo is the other one. I mean, new DC. I know that's a Steichen hire, but that's again the guys that he went out and got to fix this. He didn't just add talent. He added guys with not outside of Daniel Jones with winning pedigrees, especially on defense. Guys like Cam Bynum, guys like Charvarius Ford, guys like even like Tyler Warren, who come from a winning program. Like these guys aren't used to losing. They're not comfortable with losing. They're not going
Mm-mm.
to accept losing in the same ways that you do if you lose and lose and lose over and over again. And again, the Colts weren't quite like that before. But the point being is, I think Chris Ballard did a really good job, and I think we've talked about that all offseason. Did a really good job of adding talented players coming from winning backgrounds who can give the Colts the kind of experience they need to get past some of the hurdles, because the hurdles are going to come in this season, right? Like maybe week one wasn't it, but the hurdles will come in this season, and these guys know how to overcome them. So credit to Chris Ballard, and it was a nice poetic justice, I guess, for Jim Irsay. All this happening on the day they inducted him into the Ring of Honor.
Well, yeah, you talk about new additions, so I'll be remiss if I didn't bring up sunny days. Everybody loves them. Tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? So, a little new addition there for you. Can you stand the rain?
Nice,
The Colts stood the rain, and they finally got the big season opening win there in week
finally.
one. What's so weird, and again, I always have to write this in the most stupid ways. I either have to say they haven't won since 2013, or it's the longest non-winning streak
Yeah,
of season
winless.
openers,
So
because my
weird.
first game I ever covered was the tie there with Houston in 2022, which was a bad omen for that season. So perhaps this is a good omen for what we saw. But going back to again those new additions, if you want to, I won't sing again because I don't know, I don't want to put anybody to shame. But one of them that we've raved about all offseason, and not to take credit for it, like we're some, draft gurus, everyone in Indianapolis said the same thing. Tyler Warren looked like the truth yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, first drive, 3 catches, 43 yards. Ends the game with 7 catches for 76 yards, and actually should have had another defensive pass interference in the end zone. He got tackled before he
yeah,
could catch the ball.
yeah.
And the way he was able to be utilized, Jim, and just the versatility, that's what really stood out to me, because I'm not surprised by their production or the toughness or just his ability to catch the football. But even though he did all these different things in college, it's still a steep learning curve in the NFL. Like I often hear that outside of quarterback, tight end is one of the hardest positions to learn because you're learning two things: you're receiving and you're blocking. What did you think of the way he was able to be utilized and the way Shane kind of unleashed him? Because I was thinking, wow, even though he looked impressive in the preseason and throughout training camp, lining him up in the backfield for a handoff,
Yep.
Daniel Jones checking to him, his ability to pull a safety on the Michael Pittman Jr. touchdown, all of these things. How were you surprised at all? Just give me your reaction, I guess, to his impact immediately and so forcefully, because there was no hiding him, but he still made it happen.
Honestly, no, I will say this, like, just because of what you guys had reported from seeing him in training camp and the way they were using him, I thought they were going to highlight him. And the scouting report on him was that he was pretty much ready made. Like, I know a lot of tight ends struggle once they get to the NFL, and there's an adjustment period, and there will be for Tyler Warren. Again, it's not all going to be sunshine and roses and singing from James Boyd. But the I wasn't too surprised that he looked so comfortable in this offense. And man, like, I think you've been highlighting this quite a bit, was that the Colts tight end position has been a zero for them effectively in terms of just offensive production. Not to dump on Mo Alley Cox, who is a valuable player in what he does. He's just not really a weapon or something that defenses really have to respect in terms of a
Right.
pass catcher. You mentioned got fighting a little cold here, guys. You mentioned that the Michael Pittman touchdown. Like I thought that was like perfect, like conducting from Shane Steichen. Like he has that first drive, they're peppering Tyler Warren. He's already making an impact. The Dolphins are starting to look in like, okay, we got to take him away. We got to take him away over the middle, and then they run this little seam route with Tyler Warren up the middle. And meanwhile, Michael Pittman runs a little wheel behind. I think it was a cover two defense from the Dolphins. The corner passes him off. The shallow corner passes him off, hoping the safety's going to be over the top. Nope. Safety decides to come in there because, hey, Daniel Jones has been peppering Tyler Warren. I got to make sure I take that away over the middle. Bam. Michael Pittman's there, kind of running by himself into the corner of the end zone. That is the impact that a true pass catching and impact tight end can have on an offense. And I think we saw that from Tyler Warren. I don't think it's going to go away either. Like Shane Steichen knows how to use these types of tight ends. He did it with Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia for a few years there. He obviously came from San Diego, where he was, got to play with Antonio Gates and coach Antonio Gates and see how impactful that kind of tight end can be. So he has this history with impactful tight ends. I think I've said impactful too many times, but that's what it is. He's
I
an
was gonna
impactful tight
say,
end, man.
feel free to lay
No
it on
regrets.
because
No
no,
regrets. I was gonna say he's immediately making, I guess, even if he's not catching the ball, and he did, he caught what 7 passes for 76 yards.
yeah,
He is helping others get open. He is expanding Shane Steichen's offense in a way that they had envisioned. Right? You clog up the middle. Defenses are clogging up the middle to try to take away Tyler Warren, and it's opening up the outsides for guys like Michael Pittman, for guys like Alec Pierce, for guys like I know they only had a couple catches, Josh Downs, A.D.
right.
Mitchell. Those guys will eat in this offense because of Tyler Warren and the amount of attention he's going to attract.
And then to kind of piggyback off of that thought, the way I look at Warren is, at least my immediate reaction, just watching it in real time, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what a tight end one looks like. Because I hadn't
Yeah.
seen one since joining the beat, to be honest with you. I mean,
No.
Mo Cox was in that role, but as I've said repeatedly on this podcast, I believe that he is a better player. He being Mo Cox is a better player in a lesser role. If he's your tight end too, that's fine. I think he's a fine blocker. He'll give you the occasional downfield catch. Just not putting him in that position to be number one is much better when you have a guy like Tyler Warren who's available to create mismatches. And again, he's so like, I think him and Daniel Jones had to be like kindred spirit because even Shane Steichen will show some fire on game days. I saw him yesterday. Joe Bocci made a play, made a stop, and he's dapping up Joe Bocci on the sideline and giving the guys energy. But man, if there's two players who I trust to like never panic, I feel like I could drive with them through a blizzard and feel safe because Tyler Warren and Daniel Jones don't react to anything, good or bad.
Nope.
They just kind of make it happen. Even after Daniel Jones scored that rushing touchdown, his first one, he gets out of the pile, and I'm waiting for him to like give this big spike or to like scream or because there's some vindication there. Like, okay,
Yep.
the last time I played football, I lost to the lowly Carolina Panthers in overtime, and I threw 2 picks, and I got benched, and I got released, and that was it. It was nothing. He goes and finds some fan, throws the ball to him, like, yeah, I don't even need that. I don't want the sentimental value of my first Colts touchdown. You can have that. And just runs back to the sideline. And I'm like, do you have a pulse? And maybe that's what made him so lethal yesterday. He's moving like a killer. But I'm like, man, what is going on? Where is the excitement? Where's the emotion? But I think what I've at least gained so far, and this goes back to what I wrote last week about Daniel Jones, hooping with some of the guys. And so a few people asked about that. They were like, man, should they be playing basketball? They're playing with each other, and it's not the general public. So I don't know if there's like a contract thing in there. I don't know if I dry snitch on somebody. I'm sorry if I blew the cover. But keep in mind, a lot of these guys will play and do things with their peers versus with the public. I think that's the difference. But anyways, him building those relationships, going to play basketball, going fishing, going, golfing, and then having the success on the field and then giving it back to those guys, all it does is make them kind of rally around him. I mean, you even had Anthony Richardson flexing and getting hyped up after Daniel Jones made some plays. So you can't sit up here, and I know people have kind of been telling me, oh, just one game, you got to wait. And I get all those things. But the one thing we've counted, you've really pounded into my head, Jim, and as I've read other, New York Giants beat writers and talked to, Dan Duggan and Pat Leonard of New York Daily News, the team always seems to respect Daniel Jones
They
because
do.
of the work and also because he's willing to always give the shine to anybody else. He's gonna pat you on the helmet. He's gonna tell you it's because of you. He's never gonna say it's because of him. I mean, we were asking yesterday for maybe just an ounce. I mean, Aaron Rodgers beat his old team yesterday, and he went scorched earth. Bump them. I don't care about the Jets. I was very satisfactory to beat everybody involved with them. And we asked Daniel Jones the same thing, and his message was, not that he beat his former team, but just the fact that he got
He
vindicated.
would say that. He would say that about the Giants too, though. I mean, he would
Man,
pretend like it didn't. He would pretend like it didn't happen. He would be like, "Yeah, it was
that's
just
what
a
I'm
win."
saying. He
Yeah,
just he's wired a little bit differently, and I'm adjusted to it as a media member. But again, that is a guy who looked totally in control of his team, and those guys are enjoying it. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I heard Danny Dimes in the locker room, and all he'll do is give a slight smile. That's it. I don't even know like what music he likes, what his family looks like. Is he dating anybody? I mean, the guy is so just he's ball and he's trying to, obviously do something special here. So that was it was a fun game. I will say, like I said, fitting day for everybody. And the question that we now have to ask ourselves, and which I'll do in some of my work later this week, is how for real are they, Jim? And I
yeah.
think that's the point we should probably end this on is how real are they? And in your mind, what can we glean from this that is celebratory and realistic, but also measured because we know it's a long season, as Daniel Jones told us himself.
I think the one thing I'm willing to like say, I don't want again. You don't want to go too far after 1 week, right? Like even
Right.
Daniel Jones said in your story here is like I think I've learned over the years it's a long season, 17 game season, and you've got to play at a high level the whole time. So good start, but I think everyone on our team is mature enough, knows enough that we got to continue to grow and improve. That's honestly the overwhelming thought I have on this. It's a good start. Show me again. Though I will say, like Daniel Jones as the trigger man in Shane Steichen's offense looks good. It looks like what Shane Steichen told us it would look like, and it's 1 week against the Dolphins defense that didn't look very good. So again, all the caveats are out there, but I think that's one of the main things I'm taking away from this team right now is that it looked the way that they said it was going to look. And for so many times in this last couple of years, Nancy Richardson, so many other things, all the things that the Colts have said, they haven't really done, or they haven't really followed through on, or it hasn't gone the way they thought according to plan. Like for me, watching the Colts game yesterday was this is what they said was going to happen. Defense is going to confuse the hell out of quarterbacks, and we're gonna chase down guys with DBs getting sacks and defensive linemen getting interceptions. It happened. Daniel Jones is going to be a guy who doesn't put the ball in trouble. He's going to be the guy who distributes the ball to the players that need to be there because Shane Steichen's going to draw it up for him. Did it. Like, so far, the things they said are going to happen have happened. And that's the lesson I've learned so far from the Giants or from the Giants. Daniel Jones on the brain. What about you? Like, what is your main takeaway? What have you lesson learned from you from this?
I think for me, I'll start with the fact that it was validation of their plan and the way it was supposed to look. And I'll just go back to what Shane said about Daniel. And this one stood out to me, Jim, because Shane hasn't offered a whole lot of like behind the scenes, but we were talking about how, you know, on one of these plays throughout the game, they got a free play because Daniel Jones changed his cadence and he got the Dolphins to jump off sides. And here's Shane talking about it. He said, there are all those little things, the game within the game. Those are conversations that happen in offensive staff meetings. And then he brings them out to the offensive players meetings and he stands up and he talks about it like, hey, here's what I'm going to do on this, fellas. And guys are locked in and ready to go. And so I think that's sort of like a slight peek behind the curtain to how Daniel Jones, as mild-mannered as he is, as chill as he can be. I know Cam Bynum, I was teasing him. I was like, Cam, I see you got to teach Daniel Jones how to celebrate, man. I was like, this can't be all season. He can't be getting in the end zone twice on 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 times overall if you count the pass touchdown, and all he does is hand the ball to the ref. And he's like, nah, he's just a chill guy. He's just a chill guy. But I think the edge from what I've gleaned and what I'm gathering comes out when in the preparation and in the
Yeah.
work. And that is what Shane hammered yesterday after the game. Again, he said, well, like I said, and this is a quote, like I said, we wanted to complete balls. He wanted to keep the offense on schedule.
He did.
And he did. He delivered. And it goes back to preparation, the dedication, all the things that perhaps were lacking when Anthony Richardson was in there. And not to say that he was, this horrible,
No.
preparer, at least after the benching the first time. Like before that, I can't really speak to what was going on. He thought that tapping out of a game, I don't go down the whole rabbit hole, but he thought tapping out of a game because he was tired was okay. Like that, to where he was now, I do think he's made considerable progress, but it's probably not to the level of what you're seeing with Daniel Jones from just a leadership standpoint. And also beyond the leadership stuff, because I do think Anthony's grown in that category. It's the little things. It's all the little things. Cadence, checks, check downs, when to throw it. And I'll leave you all with this. As much as I, talked about Daniel Jones not pushing the ball down the field, like you said earlier throughout this podcast, 10.7 air yards per attempt. His last start as a Giant, 2.7.
Yep.
He threw it 37 times his last time with the Giants. 22 completions in his last start for the Giants, but 37 attempts for 190 yards yesterday. 22.
Against, just to be clear, against the Panthers defense that gave up more points than any other team in NFL history last year. I know
that's what I'm saying. It was god awful.
Yeah.
Come here, again, way better offensive infrastructure with your offensive line. Give credit to Matt Gonzalez, Tanner Bortolini, the young guys. They were doing their thing yesterday. And then on top of that, you didn't have like a great day from Jonathan Taylor. It was pretty good, but it wasn't, the Jonathan Taylor where I'll put your team on my back and carried you all, and you still find a way to put up 33 points. So very promising stuff, very exciting stuff. But again, the Broncos are coming. Sean Payton, what he does against young quarterbacks in his defense and Vance Joseph and what they do over there. That's going to be a big, big test, I think, for this group. And also a test to kind of see, are you for real? The Dolphins have been a mess, as we talked about, Jim. But now you get a Broncos team that made the playoffs last year. They're looking to build with their young quarterback. They have a Super Bowl winning head coach already. He's coached probably 5 times as many games in the NFL than Shane Steichen has, or at least 3 times as many. I don't want to exaggerate too much, but again, you're going to go up against a team that is, favored coming to your house, and rightfully so. Yep. And can you stack on that in another situation where this could be a team that you're competing or trying to chase down, or you're trying to stiff arm to get into the playoffs later this year? So although, again, these first 2 aren't division games, Titans in week 3, but the first 2 aren't division games, they're still very big games in my opinion, because these are the teams you got to make sure that you beat if you want to get into the dance. So I did say, to give myself some credit here, well, like I can, right? I was dead wrong, but I am going to do it anyways. I said if they didn't win the season opener, they would not make the playoffs. They won the season opener, so hope is alive.
Open, baby.
Hope is alive. So that's all we have for you all. We'll try to bring you all these podcasts probably every Monday and Tuesday from here out for the rest of the season, just kind of checking in and recapping the game, trying to give you all fresh thoughts before we look ahead to the next week. But thanks for all the support. As always, you can get the James Boyd podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And Jim, last thing, is the crow, is it fried? Is it hibachi? What kind of crow are you thinking about right now? Because I might have to be eating something with you.
I was just say, if it's not raw, which I appreciate, if Colts fans are going to prepare it for us in some way that is not just raw, that would be nice if they cooked it up for us, because I just assumed it was going to be raw crow. But hey, whatever way you prefer to eat your crow, I think Colts fans will give it to you. So it's.
Well, there you go. Colts fans, if you want to give us some crow after week 1, feel free. But again, thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Obviously, you enjoyed the game, and we'll talk to you all very soon.